Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at all the pieces of chess. So let's start with the pawn. The pawn is a piece that can move 2 squares on its first turn and then 1 square after that. So for example, right now it can move either 1 square or 2 squares. So I'm just going to choose 2 squares. So it can move 2 squares on its first move. But then on its second move of the pawn, it can only move 1 square. For example, here, it can only move 1 square. See over here, you see its option for a second square, but over here you don't, and over here you don't. So on its first move, a pawn can move 2 squares. On its second move, it can only move 1 square. So let's take a look here. What happens if a pawn goes on the 8th rank? It can turn into any piece it wants. It can turn into a queen, it can turn into a knight, it can turn into a rook, or it can turn into a bishop. If you want to see how all these pieces move, please make sure to watch the whole video. Now let's move on to the next piece, the bishop. The bishop is a rather interesting piece because the bishop can only stay on its color. So this bishop over here is a black bishop because it's on the color square black. This bishop is a white bishop because it's on the color square white. And over here it can only stay on its color. And over here that can only stay on its color. You move here, but there's no options for the black bishops to move to a white square. There's no option for a white bishop to move into a black square. So that's how the bishops are. Now let's move on to a knight. The knight is one of the most complicated pieces of chess. See over here. A knight can move in an L-shape move. So it can move straight 2 squares and then left or right 1 square. Straight 2, left or right 1. Straight 2, left or right 1. Straight 2, left or right 1. Over here. The knight can't move over here because the board ends over here. So, straight 2, left or right 1. So that's how it moves. But if it's going to the side, it moves side 2, left or right 1. Over that. Yeah, so that's how the knight moves. Let's take a look at the rook. The rook can move wherever it wants, up or down or left or right. It can move there, it can move there, it can move there, it can move up or down wherever it wants. So that's the rook. Now the queen. The queen is surely the most powerful piece in chess. You want to know why? It can move diagonal, it can move up or down, and it can move left or right. That's the most squares any piece can move. And it can move all around it. So it can't move to every piece on the chessboard, but it can move to the most pieces. So it can move like here, it can move here, it can move here, it can move wherever it wants, up or down, left or right, or diagonal. Now let's take a look at the king. The king is the most weak piece after the pawn. So the king moves. So let's take an example. So the king moves all around it. It can move every square around it. That's how the king moves. So now you saw how all the pieces move on chess. The pawn, the bishop, the knight, the rook, the queen, and the king. I hope you learned a lot in this video. Thank you for watching it to the end.